You're live.
It'll behave. No news here.
He doesn't, maybe he doesn't have any official position in the house. I don't think he can put.
Didn't you guys approve March?
Antonio?
Yes, we did.
So
Yep.
it should be March 11th.
Yes, it should be. I didn't even pay attention, so let me make sure. Oh, yeah, these are March 4 minutes, and they should have been March 11th.
Are you approving March 11th?
Oh, yeah, no.
Oh, you're right on my agenda. I did not.
Oh, yeah, but okay, yeah,
Sorry about that.
Yep.
Didn't catch it.
Yep.
Made the motion.
perfect.
Okay. Okay, looks like 6 o'clock to me. We'll call the March 18th, March 18th, I'm looking at the wrong page myself. Board of Selectmen meeting to order, 6 o'clock. We have Selectman Mike Mansell-Lilly, Mackenzie Jewett, Jamie Thurlow, myself, Kevin Buck, Town Manager Chris Saunders, Town Clerk Katie Dandurand, our County Commissioner Antonio Blasi, and our centerfold of the year, Jed. Adoption of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Okay. Approval of minutes. We have the minutes of March 11th, 2019.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of March 11, 2019.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of March 11th, 2019. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Abstain.
Financial reports.
Nope.
Nope.
We need to
Oh,
excuse an absence too.
oh, that's right, yeah.
Yep, sorry, I forgot about that. I
Mhm.
make a motion to excuse Howdy Goodwin from this meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to excuse Howdy from the meeting tonight. Any discussion? All those in favor? You've been scratching out stuff too fast. Okay, approval of warrants. We have warrant 98 for $10,266.14 and warrant number 99 for $15,984.
Make a motion to approve warrants 98 and 99.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve warrants 98 and 99. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, now financial reports.
All right, I'll make it quick. Just a few things that I wanted to highlight in my report to you. Since you've approved so many cemetery deeds, I thought you'd like to know that just in February, we received an additional $2,825 for cemetery lots, bringing the year-to-date total to $6,525. We've just about cleared out the full wait list, so there might be a couple more in the months to come, but we've mostly cleared those out. So any new ones would be people who have come to me recently. For revenues for the Wharf and Harbor, rather just for the Harbor Fund, boat mooring and mooring waitlist bills went out on Tuesday, March 12th, so we should start to see those revenues coming in soon. Major expense changes, any questions on the revenues from last month? Any major expense changes you might have seen in the Protections Cost Center. We had the $44,000 bill to the Southwest Harbor Tree One ambulance service. That was their annual appropriation. And then in the Windsor Roads budget, I sort of broke down what the public works costs were, since that was a big jump just over the month of February. So the only few that were were non-routine were the cutting edges. We got I think 20 new cutting edges, 22 for $5,400, and new hydraulic pistons for $4,200, and then $7,000 in repairs by an outside shop. And most of that $7,000 were for 2 lead spring repairs to the International.
How many cutting edges?
I want to say 22, but I don't have the number right in front of me. That might be off because based on how much that would break down to about $250 or so for cutting edge. And that number might be off.
How many
think
trucks
they
do we have
were that.
plowing right now?
Truck 1, truck 2, and then the 3 small trucks. So 5 trucks.
So replacing each one and then having a spare.
Yeah, we always just have a whole bunch sitting in the garage, and they can be, recycled until next, if we have too many this winter, they don't expire.
Yeah.
And then we are able to trade in the old ones, so, once, that's usually, we wait till spring to do that, since they can just sit there. And I expect the trail will be making a run up to, Ellsworth in the next couple weeks.
I just don't see any sense in having extra cutting edges. I mean, that's something that wears so slowly that, I mean, I'm fine with it, but if we trade a plow in and we get another plow, it doesn't fit,
Sure.
what are they gonna give us? They're gonna give us a half credit for it.
Yeah, no,
I
we
mean,
don't have a huge number of.
I could see maybe a piston. Yeah, I could see that because you don't know when those are gonna go, but a cutting edge is something that, I mean, I've got one on my truck right now and I have a 1-ton and I mean, you're talking 2 to 3 years lifespan on it. I just don't see us having all that extra money out there for something that we might trade in a year or two.
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, and then we have the annual maintenance on a lot of the resident water treatment systems for about $1,000. You can see that in there. That was the last thing I wanted to highlight on expenses. Any other questions? Great. And then for the general ledger, I thought you might want to know just that the library capital reserve fund balance as of the end of February is sitting at $389,000 or so. So there's been a few, the expense for lighting, the expense for the first payment to New Yankee Builders, and a few other sundry expenses. That's it.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to accept the July 2018 through February 2019 financial reports as presented by the town manager.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the July 2018 through February 2019 financial reports as presented by the town manager. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, regular business. Coastal watershed, and that's why Mr. Blasi is here to help describe. Why don't you tell us about it if you want, Antonio? Just
So I called the DEP and there's, as far as they knew, there were no municipalities that had done this. So Tremont would, again, show leadership in doing it, if so desired. I don't know if you have any copies of any paperwork up there. But,
no, everything was long, so we figured we'd just discuss it at this point. Anyhow.
So there's
It
a
was-
statute, Title 38, 23, Section 2000, 2001, and so forth, that enables a municipality to form a coastal watershed district. You could invite other municipalities, and you would, each municipality who would care to join would send a director or trustee to sit on this district, and you would be able to, conduct business through this district. So this could go in many different ways. And one thing I would think that you'd want to do is appoint your representatives who are people who, whose livelihoods depend on the coast and waters and so forth. And also possibly some, 1 or 2 local environmental groups that could have their input. If you decide to go beyond the town of Tremont, so in my mind, you could invite neighbors across the bay, such as Brooklyn, who might be interested in joining the district with the goal of protecting the water quality in the bay. So the natural watersheds districts are created to protect, restore, and maintain the natural functions of and values of coastal harbors, bays, and the natural functions and values of those resources include water quality maintenance, aquatic and wildlife habitat. So one order of business that a watershed district would be able to promote would be the no discharge area. So as you probably know, the no discharge area ends at the, right at the head, and on the, going west from that point is just open water, and perhaps the district would want to initiate the process of a no discharge area for the rest of the bay. This is not news to at least one other town. The Bar Harbor Committee had this, they actually had a no discharge area on their agenda for 3 or 4 meetings, and I don't know what became of it, but at least they had discussed it.
Yeah,
So, go ahead.
and
I
you
mean,
could do
that's a
something
lot of
similar to
information.
what they're talking about with the cruise ship thing too. You could control a lot of that type of stuff too with one of these.
Well, with the
Or is
watershed
it-
district, you write bylaws and you possibly adopt a budget, and you procure funding, however that happens. That's all written in the statute. You could, I always ask myself this question: why do we have municipal boundary lines out on the bay if we don't have any control over those waters out there? You could, in the guidelines of the bylaws, you could establish perhaps shipping channels. It's pretty wide open. There's no, and the statute doesn't tell you what the district does. It just enables you to set it up and invite other municipalities to join as members. You could keep it all within your own town if you wanted to do that. So it's a pretty wide open proposition, but it gives you more local control than you may have at this point over your territorial waters.
Now, would this affect an aquaculture lease? Would you have say on
It
that?
may, but,
Would
you
that be
know, the
DMR still?
DMR will issue the
Yeah.
permit,
Yeah.
but the watershed, having a watershed district probably gives the town more say than it does now as to what goes on out in the bay.
Isn't this, I mean, is this something that our harbor committee could write into their ordinance just as easily? I mean, some of these rules, I just don't see,
In my
Distinguish
mind, it exists for some reason. The answer is most likely yes, but why does this exist as a law on the books? Because it would give even more ability to do what, an ordinance might not take care of, because you can't regulate what's, out of the water.
well, an ordinance would be enforceable just as much as a watershed district, right? That's,
It should be, but, we don't have, I mean, I personally, I work on the water, I have a guide service, sea kayak guide service. I don't know who actually regulates everything out there. We understand that the feds regulate their part of it, the state attempts to regulate. So if the local region didn't feel like they were getting enough protection from what's already in place at the state and federal level, coastal watershed district could be another tool.
So again, one of the reasons I want to do this, or everyone can hear the discussion. If Tremont formed its own coastal watershed district, we would have a lot more say in the waters within the town of Tremont. If we get together with other towns around Blue Hill Bay, we could have some say over the entire bay. So, and as far as water quality, or at least have a lot more input on uses of that water. How it's used, or what uses it may be used for.
Yes,
That's
the impression.
correct.
That's the
Yeah.
impression I
Yeah,
get from reading the
okay.
statute.
So, I mean, it sounds to me like it could benefit the town a lot, keeping the water cleaner. I know a lot of places have gone to no discharge zones. I think the entire state of Rhode Island did that several years ago. And it's the idea of keeping the water cleaner around here when we're so, the economy is so based on the water. It doesn't seem like a bad idea to me. Again, I know we've discussed it and don't know exactly what the process is because no one's really done it.
Well, we know what the process is, but we don't know what the results could be.
Yeah.
The only thing I'm having a hard time with is I don't see where we have these water issues in our town. I mean, not to say that other towns don't have them, because you can certainly travel the state and see areas that do have water quality problems. But I just think that we have some of the best harbors around, and I think it's a great idea, but implementing it at the right time would be better. I just don't think now is the time for us to do this.
And there's, would you like a comment from me?
Certainly.
Other people see implementing ordinances and statute and, regulations in advance of something that might happen. So if you have any premonitions that something not good is gonna happen out there.
Well, it's a lot, you can affect it a lot better if you get ahead of it rather than trying to react to it after it's out.
Does the harbor committee have any thoughts on this? Or this is it's here and then,
This is the first
Yeah,
time
this
it's
is-
ever been
gotcha,
proposed.
okay.
Does this control water runoff and stuff like that too for water
I don't
quality?
think so. I think that's still land.
Yeah.
Regulators
Mhm.
and agencies.
Yeah.
But the watershed district could raise concerns, maybe more than even the select board. But if you got
Mhm.
select boards from 3 or 4 different towns, all voting that, they want to express this concern to the state, now you got that much more clout.
Mhm.
That's, to me, seems an advantage, but it's really up to the board and I would do it myself, as I told Kevin, if I could get unorganized territory residents, perhaps down in Township 7 on the coast there, to want to form a district, then the county commissioners could get involved. But at the municipal level, all we could do is tell you what we know and leave it up to you.
I think it'd be something good to have the harbor committee talk about anyway and see if that's something that they can see some benefits of. Does the harbor committee have anything to say about when it's not actually outside the harbor, the town waters outside of the harbors themselves? I don't know where the boundary is
Well,
on that.
they
If there is.
certainly have things to say about Seal Cove, which is outside of.
Yeah, but that's
Harbor.
still a regulated harbor.
Yeah,
That's, yeah, do they just cover the harbors or all the waters of the town?
I mean, obviously the Coast Guard and the
Yeah.
state wardens take care
Yeah.
of most of the bay and really anything
Yeah.
to do with, once you get outside of the inner harbors.
Yeah.
So,
But that's more of an enforcement or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right, I think that's the difference.
yeah.
It goes beyond enforcement.
Yeah.
I don't even know how
Yeah.
much a watershed district could enforce.
Yeah.
They would have to just report, just like you do now,
Yeah.
and see something going on.
Yeah, but you could set some parameters
You
on
could
what
set
would be
parameters.
enforced.
Mhm.
Like,
Go ahead.
I guess I'm not, I mean, it's a great idea, I guess, at the right time, but I'm just not interested in making the harbor more restrictive right now in any possible way. I think if we were a destination for cruise ships like Bar Harbor, absolutely. Because there's some things that go on over there that probably aren't the greatest, and I wouldn't want that in our town. But I think we've kind of squashed that, with our ordinances, with the cruise ship ordinance. And I just think, right now, we're pretty much a working harbor. The only thing out here is lobster boats and commercial vehicles and pleasure boats. I just don't see anything that they're doing that's harmful, that isn't covered by local government stuff like the harbor committee or enforcement on the water. If I'd seen stuff like that happening, then I would certainly be concerned, but this time I'm not.
so do you think that having a district automatically makes things more restrictive, or there's another way? of looking at it,
I
perhaps?
think that it would lead to more restrictive, absolutely.
Whereas it could lead to more input from everybody who uses the
And,
bay.
and not necessarily, I think like our harbor committee is built from a great group of people that work in the harbor, that see it every day, and they're the economic engine of the town. That's how I look at it. I want what's best for them and what they feel is the best. I trust their judgment to make ordinances within the town Do I think there's some good input that you could give them? Probably yes, but I think they should have the ultimate say in it.
And when something happens beyond the harbor committee's jurisdiction or the select board's jurisdiction, what
You call the DEP.
call it DEP, and if you're not satisfied with the assistance from the DEP,
I can tell you, I've never had a problem getting a hold of them. If there's an issue, they'll come down right away, so.
because this could fill gaps where they can't respond or don't choose to.
If
And
there's
and
a,
not that this would be able to override what the DEP would do, but it would have that much more influence on getting assistance from the state.
I think as ecologically sensitive as this area is, that they take care of us pretty well. That's just my input.
I'd actually like to see the harbor committee have a shot at it, have their input, see what they think.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should throw it at them
Yeah,
and see
let's-
what they say also. I
yeah.
do agree with.
Because
what
I
you're
think-
saying.
I agree with Antonio. I think it's a possibility to get ahead of something that we may not even see coming. And,
It's important.
you know, it would really be nice to have more say in what goes on in the waters and try to keep them clean. I mean, I know it really bothered me when the young ladies from Pematic did their presentation talking about how many parts, you know, of microplastic are in a liter of water in Blue Hill Bay. I mean, that really hit home to me. And, you know, so there's stuff going on there we probably don't realize. And to me, getting ahead of that curve, I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think we need to regulate it so much, but I think if we had some kind of way to monitor the water quality or have something to say about it, you know, and if it did get sampled regularly, it would be nice to know before it got bad. I think maybe the harbor committee I'd like to at least hear what they have to say about it.
I personally think you're opening up a can of worms, but that's my.
I absolutely think we are. I think if somebody in the community had a concern with the water quality or the environmental impact from anything, I think they should go to the harbor committee and have them write into their ordinance. I mean, our town has enough to manage between all the committees we have right now, and giving more control to another committee, I think it's just one more headache for us at this time, being a small town as we are. I think that the harbor committee would be the best place for someone to go with any concerns with the DEP.
So the district, I believe, would operate independently. They'd be certainly feeding back to the select board, but they would be having their own meetings and, you know, if they got that much advance, they get their own budget and so forth. Perhaps I would think they would ask the towns to contribute something, but, you know, they could exist just meeting and not, you know, having an organization just themselves as the directors of the watershed. And, you know, if the town can handle everything that's going on in the bay and you're all satisfied with the way, you know, you don't need any more assistance from any other towns, then that's fine. Just have your harbor committee and go on. So it's a more of a regional thing than just one town. They could start in one town, but I think the idea is to expand it to towns around the bay.
I just know from owning two parcels of land in town on the water, one in the harbor and one in a separate cove, that the state is down constantly checking the water quality in the summer. The DEP is around when necessary. I feel like that they've got a really good handle on things right now, and I just don't want to get into something that's not necessary at this point. If it becomes necessary, I agree with Mike that if it starts to become an issue, then I'm all for looking into it, but that's my only concern at this time.
I mean, I could call John Cullen right now from the DEP and he'd be down here tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. if there was an issue. I think that's one of the greatest things about living here is in the state of Maine, they really take care of us in that aspect. I've worked on a lot of construction projects on the ocean, on the waterfront, and environmental protection is their number one thing. Whether it's them in charge of it or if they have an engineer design something on the water, they they put that as a priority, and I think that's something we should be proud of, but I don't see us starting a watershed district at this time.
Don't look at me.
Do you want the harbor committee to discuss it, or would you rather just drop it?
My own opinion,
I'd drop it.
I just don't see the need for it to be 100% honest with you. At this,
Okay.
that's my
No,
honest
yeah,
opinion,
yeah.
but that's,
I just ask, how do you feel about having your no discharge area ending at a certain point and the rest of the town not in that zone?
yeah, I mean, I fish in the bays too and everything, and I just don't see that
Doesn't
issue
matter.
there. No, I just don't see that there is an issue. You know, if I saw an issue or heard it, then it would be a lot different, but I mean, my whole family fishes and they're out there every day, and I just don't see it at this time.
I think that I see that a lot of people that have lived here their whole life or that moved to this community have respect for it when it comes to the water and the environment, more than most. I mean, if you go down to southern Maine, go down to Portland area, that's a little bit different. But they know they're here, they know we're surrounded by the park, they know we're in a beautiful place, and I think that they want to keep it that way. And that's just always been my feeling, and I've been on lobster boats, I've been on pleasure boats, but I always have thought that people were pretty good about, keeping the harbor clean, that sort of thing.
I'm not sure my beach in front of the house down there would agree with you. I took a lot of stuff off it, but it's not terrible. I'm still would like to see the harbor committee discuss it, but
I'm sorry, but I can't support that this time.
What do you think?
Oh. I mean, I see it both ways. I think it's important to be proactive, so I definitely see why it's something that, we should think about, but I also agree with you guys. I feel like this district or committee would sort of be stepping on the toes of the harbor committee. And I feel like the harbor committee does a good job, and if there's an issue right now, you can certainly, like you said, you can call the DEP, you can go to the harbor committee and get it taken care of. I don't know if we need more out of fishermen, but I don't know if we need more rules out there. I don't know. So I'm not opposed to the harbor committee talking about it. I mean, maybe they would like to turn some of it over to somebody else and be like, cool, somebody else figured this out. We don't want to, or we don't have the time. So I'm not opposed to them talking about it. I'm not sold on it. There, how's that? Clear as mud?
there you go.
Great, I'm helpful.
It's like talking to my wife.
Right.
I also think that education on it does a lot more than say enforcement. You're gonna have a hard time enforcing anything that we do put in there. I just think that I don't think there's that big of a problem here. I do think, yes, there's trash on the beaches, yes, there's trash in the harbor at times, but you can go anywhere and get that, and I don't think a watershed district is gonna stop that. And the discharge thing, we don't have cruise ships here, and I don't think a lot of the vessels that I don't know, Jamie, you're in the harbor a lot more than me, are dumping stuff in.
I've never seen the issue like up inside the bay, any of the areas that you're speaking of that, not to say that there isn't, but I've just never seen it. I have never heard the complaint, in this area.
I think-
I have outside of it, but,
Yeah.
this particular area, I haven't.
Yeah, I think it'd be a few pleasure boats if anyone's doing any
Yeah.
discharging. And I don't think the fishing boats do at all.
Most of them don't have holding tanks or anything,
Yeah.
so.
And garbage and that sort of thing could come from anywhere. I mean, that's the worst part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So do you think a district would automatically be, establishing more regulations Or just, I mean, if you're a representative, you could tell them to, don't do this, do that.
I don't think it's gonna matter. I mean, our plastic bag ordinance is gonna do more than probably anything.
Yeah, that will make a big difference.
That's gonna make a big difference,
Yeah.
because somebody going out on the water, they don't have a plastic bag blowing across the deck and going into the ocean.
I fish a lot of those out of the water.
Yeah. Got a paper bag that's biodegradable.
They could,
Yeah.
yeah,
And another thing I wanted to ask, do you hear from the other towns around the bay that, do they correspond with you about their concerns about the bay?
No.
So everyone's okay with the way things are?
No one's brought it up. I haven't heard anything. I'm not sure they're okay, but they haven't talked to me about it.
I had some of my workers a couple of years ago volunteer to clean up some of the beaches in Southwest Harbor along the waterfront. And I mean, you could go there and pick up trash for 2 days along a short section and go back 3 weeks later and you'd still have trash.
Right.
And it could be from Europe. I mean, that's the sad part of it. But, I think focusing an effort on something, a cleanup or something like that is a lot more beneficial, I guess. Because enforcement or rules, it's like putting a no smoking sign out here. Are they gonna see it? Yeah, but are they gonna stop smoking? That's their choice,
Again, I'm not sure how many rules the district would try and come up with. Just, you would think that they'd be checking the water regularly, I know the DEP does it, but there's more people involved. Sounds like pretty even distribution of opinions up there.
It's good to have different opinions. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's necessary right now.
Okay. We can always revisit it down the road if we want.
Mhm.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you very much.
Thanks, Antonio. Okay. Item B, deer management. Chris, I don't know if you've all had a chance to read the communication back and forth. I guess there's a couple different people at the fishing game. Sounds like pretty much everything we heard the last time we talked about is pretty much the way it is. I don't know where I left down my notes, but there it is. We can't do, we get stuck with the full bore hunting season if we do anything, from my understanding.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mike.
Have we invited the IFW to come in here for a question and answer session? It just seems they're really slow to respond, and if they were right in front of us, we'd have a little more input.
They're pretty responsive. I mean, I've got a number of emails back and forth between
Yeah,
me and Susan Bard. You can see the data's on here.
there was one, Henry originally too.
And it seems like there's just no way around
I mean,
having it completely open. I mean,
Pretty much what
No.
they keep saying.
yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
It seems like
I
it's.
say that a few different ways in there. Yep.
What exactly is a professional deer hunt? Somebody comes in and,
Yeah, it's like a sniper would come in and thin the herd.
You can hire a group. We've said it before, ideas, I know back a while ago, you could have a group of locals, you could hire someone in from wherever, it's a,
My
it's a
sources,
broad.
the article in the Islander from a few weeks ago, I believe I included it in your packet, that back in the 90s, but Sarah, help me out, was it the 90s or the 60s? Suddenly I'm doubting myself. But at some point there was,
when they were culling?
Yeah. 60s, okay, sorry. That the national park hired a professional to come in and thin out the herd. I think they reconsidered it in the 90s, but it didn't go anywhere.
So we
And how
did,
does,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, how does that work with like private property? And I mean, is
I
there
don't know.
gonna be a sniper sitting in my backyard? I mean,
Yeah.
how does
It
that
would
work,
be a lot
I
more,
guess?
it would be a lot more research. I would
I
just
mean, I'm
want you guys to tell me, okay, we're
Like-
interested in you researching this more. And then I
Gotcha.
would try to go find those answers.
looks
So
like,
it is possible to have local residents take care of it, calling the herd.
Well,
That was-
I can't answer that without,
So you said, Jamie?
it was one idea that we had before was to, I don't know, the same thing came up, like I said, 3 years ago, basically. And we talked about it and it was, that was one of the ideas that was thrown around, but I think that's something for Chris maybe to look into, because I know a lot of people have talked about it before and they had expressed, issues with having someone come in that doesn't know the area or where they're
Right.
shooting, even if they're
Yeah.
professional snipers, and where, which direction. There's a
Mhm.
subdivision behind this here and here, and
Yeah.
so if you had a group of locals or semi-local, then, but yeah, I'd say we have to look into it,
And
obviously.
Fish and Game still needs to approve that anyway.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
we couldn't just do
Yeah.
it on our own.
yeah.
It is,
Unless, it looks to me like unless we really want to hire someone to come in and do it, or open up the town to deer hunting, which again, either one of those we may not be allowed to do anyway, but it looks like those are the choices.
and if we hired someone, would the park ever be, have you spoken with them at all? to
You know,
see-
they reached out on their own without me,
Mhm.
and they weren't committing. They didn't commit one way or the other, but they're interested. I think they're curious to see what the public sentiment is. I think everyone sort of landed on this is inherently a political question. This is not a biological question at this point,
Mhm.
and so they're hesitant to be the first ones out the gate because they want to see, you as the select board representing the political sentiment of the town of Tremont. Where do you want to go? And if you had a really strong feeling, yes or no, then they would take your lead. And that's why I've also drafted a motion in here. If you wanted to get the town's sentiment on that, we could put a warrant on an article on the warrant for the annual meeting. It wouldn't commit you one way or the other. It would just, ask people their opinion. Would you support a deer hunt in Tremont? And that might give you more
Yeah.
information to go off of.
And that seems like the only option at this point, really, besides, because I think we've all said, or I won't speak for everybody, but we've all said before that most of us that opening the season completely is just wouldn't work out.
I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't hurt to have you look into, I guess, some sort of management. I mean, not people hunting, but a group of people, like Jamie had said.
Like a professional hunt.
I mean, we've had a lot of deer collisions in this area.
Mhm.
We've had a lot of cases of Lyme disease. I was covered in 8 ticks last year and I had to go to the doctor twice, 2 different times. Once I had 1 on me and another time I had 8.
So if we make a motion to draft the management article,
Mhm.
it's basically, we're not committing to anything. We're basically polling everybody saying, yes, you're in favor of doing something, or no. We don't know what the something is yet.
Yeah, well, I have a draft in your memo that says, would the voters support an open regular deer hunts? But you could word that differently. If you know that open regular deer hunt is not the direction you want to go, which sounds like that's what you're saying right now, this is on page 4 of the memo. You could instead amend that language to say, would the voters support a professional deer hunt? You can give me whatever language you want and I'll put it on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I would be curious to see what the town thinks. I mean, we all have our opinions here, but I'm a little bit curious what everybody else out there thinks, if it's a thing. But I'm not ready to commit to a professional deer hunter. I'm certainly
would
not committing
wanna
to an
know.
open.
I would want to know a lot more about that.
Right,
How
right.
that would work and what it would cost.
Yeah,
I'm a long way from thinking that's a good idea
Right,
without a
same.
lot more information.
same.
Yeah.
I think we should have Chris look into it.
Yep.
To a professional deer hunt and see what the cost would be and who we could have do it, if there's regulations on that.
I think that would be a good
And,
idea.
and how long would they do it for? I mean,
Who could do it, whether they had to be licensed or, I'm sure there's a lot to it, so
Sure.
find all of the
Mhm.
details, and then at least if if we get that back, then
I think the draft motion on the bottom of page 4 captures everything that you're saying.
I make a motion to request the town manager to research how Tremont could conduct a professional deer hunt.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to request the town manager to research how Tremont could conduct a professional deer hunt. Any discussion? All those in favor? Yeah, whatever.
No?
I'm not, whatever. I voted yes.
What about the warrant article?
Well, I have a question about that, I guess. Maybe I
Yeah.
should have. So if we're telling you now to look into this,
Mhm.
we're gonna miss the boat for any sort of warrant article in May, probably, right? I mean,
Well,
time's
so the
ticking at this
timeline,
point.
the timeline for the warrant is that I'm gonna bring you a draft warrant next Monday. And you can give me any feedback that you want on that draft warrant. And then the following Monday, I'm gonna ask you to approve the draft warrant.
But you're probably not gonna have.
No, I've already got it on there. It takes me 2 seconds to
No,
type
no,
that
no,
sentence
I
on
mean,
there.
but you're not
Oh, I
gonna
won't, no, I
have
won't
any
have those.
information about.
No, no, no,
Yeah,
no,
that's
I won't
what
have
mean.
that answer.
So we might miss this town meeting.
Well, you could ask them without having all the information about what the details are. You could just ask them in general, would you support a professional?
Okay.
Or you couldn't. I mean, I'm
Yeah,
not pushing one or the other.
yeah.
I'm not sure that's even really a warrant article question, would it be? I mean, I know you could do it, but I don't know if that's even the place for it.
Well, it's,
You know, a survey type
So there's
question
two-
like that.
there
yeah.
there is precedent for that. That
Okay.
warrant article questions can be used as, shall the town do this? And then just basically a poll. Do you, would you support this? And both kinds of warrant article questions are acceptable.
Okay.
You're right, that most of the time they aren't like
Yeah.
that, but you're allowed to.
I personally would rather, sorry.
No,
I just would rather have more information before
Before you,
I
I mean,
pushed it to the voters, because
That's what I'm
I-
thinking.
that's
yeah.
fine
I
too.
would feel that if it's something that
If
we
it makes
don't
you,
like the looks of, then why would we even
Yeah.
ask the?
if it makes you feel
voters?
better, I mean, you've got the budget in front of you. I'm hoping that you're going to finalize it in 2 agenda items.
Mhm.
And there's no budget for professional deer hunts. There's not even like a place that I could shoehorn it in.
Yeah.
And so the earliest that this could happen would be, I would say, fiscal year 2021. So you could wait till the annual town meeting next year and, sort of pair these 2 things
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
I think
Get
that
some
sounds good.
information, see if it even looks like it's feasible.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, 'cause there's so
I mean, if
much
it's gonna
to it.
cost $100,000 for them to come in
Yeah.
and, you know.
And I think
whatever,
ask
it's like,
around,
yeah.
it doesn't have to be a formal town meeting question, just like, you guys obviously know lots of people in Fremont, ask them
Yeah.
how people feel about it.
And I wonder if people would like to see a hunting season, how they'd feel about having professional hunters come in. Too. So I mean, it might be, I think some research would be great.
Yeah,
before
we need to know some of the details at least.
Yeah.
Sure.
Put it as a warrant article. Yeah, they can hold up.
No warrant article.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's good. Okay, LED streetlight conversion. You were very thorough, Chris, all kinds of homework again.
This one's complicated, so I
It is.
want you to have everything.
It looks like we can save a ton of money.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I don't know if everyone had a chance to look at it.
Mhm.
I know there's no upfront cost for the merit, but the savings aren't huge. And the other one, that RTE,
Mhm.
their proposal looks pretty good. And then if we decided to do that, there's a question whether do we finance it up front or go with their payment proposal.
Mhm.
And then the other option was, do we try to do something with this or consider putting out a bid to do all of them?
Yeah, I would call it a request for qualifications. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to try to specify exactly what we want in a
Yeah,
bid because
yeah.
different companies offer different services. But the only other company that I know about there is that Affinity.
Mhm.
And, they're more, the only towns that I know that have used them are farther south. I have no idea whether they'd even be interested in Tremont, but,
can the local electrician do something like this?
I,
I mean, I'm just thinking like Mike Muzay does pole line construction. Is that something that they could?
I'd be happy to look into that, but, my guess is no, but.
It's kind of a specialized field, I think, at this point.
Yeah, I
anyway.
mean, for us to change that, no matter if you're gonna go with any company other than Emera, we have to acquire the fixtures.
And the one
It
question,
can't be that difficult.
It's $41,000.
We're gonna pay for one way or the other, right?
Well, if you do it through Emera, you don't have to acquire them.
That's what I was gonna say, with Amera,
Yeah.
then they cover everything, you're dropping, rough numbers, $150 a month.
Mhm.
Right.
146, yeah.
So you're, then you have no cost to it, or no responsibilities. I
Yeah,
know
so-
it's not as big of a savings, but
That's
well, the
the
thing is,
trade-off.
once, with LEDs though, there's not really that much to do.
Yeah.
And they do offer maintenance on them,
Mhm.
on that too. I mean, to me, the savings are pretty
Yeah.
significant. I wouldn't have a problem not putting it out to bid and trying to, just go ahead with a proposal. The one thing, I don't understand how they do the billing. That's the one thing I would like to hear a little more about, because there's obviously still some electrical usage on there. And how do they do that? Is it like a flat rate based on what the light is, or do they have some kind of a micro metering device or something on them?
So my strong recommendation is, even if you really like the Realtor proposal, which I think there's a lot to really like about it, is I think you should request for them to attend a meeting. They've offered to attend a meeting.
Oh.
They're perfectly happy to. It might take a little while to schedule it. But I think there are a lot of questions that I would want to ask them just to, feel good
Yeah.
about, because they have a proposal as part of their package. They would assess our lighting needs and determine, our streetlights are where they are because 100 years ago, somebody put a streetlight there, and 70 years ago, somebody put a streetlight there. And maybe our 2019 needs for where our streetlights are different from what they were 50, 70, 100 years ago. And so they would sort of reassess it all and say, you don't really need this light, but you could really use a light right here. And that could be how you sort of address questions like what's going on at Stoke Landing, like maybe you build that in. Now, if they do end up saying, we recommend that you relocate a light, that's extra cost.
Mhm.
That's not part of the savings that are built in here, but just the assessment that are their recommendations, that is built into the price. So you can sort of get their, a feel for how they do that assessment, questions about billing. I think there's a lot to be gained from inviting them.
Yeah, I think it'd be great down there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Have we looked into any other companies that would audit our streetlights and give us an idea on it? I just feel like one company's, it's not really in the best interest of the town to not at least look into it a little bit deeper.
I-
I mean,
If you wanted me to do that, I'd be more than happy to do that.
they might be the only company that does it, but it wouldn't hurt to check.
You just said there's another one that's
Mhm.
done some in the area.
Yeah,
so,
Affinity
Yeah,
did the town of Chelsea down just across.
I think as part of that, we should ask some of the local electrician companies if that's something that they're qualified to do.
Could also do that.
I wouldn't feel right just giving it to somebody like that. I think it's a great idea, and I think we should definitely put LED streetlights in. I mean, I don't think there's a new home going in on the island that isn't pretty much all LED now, so we're kind of behind the times.
I think that would be, I'd be happy to do that. It would obviously add, months to the implementation, but it's fine. I mean,
I think we ought to ask them to tell us what they know, or I think having them show up at a meeting and speak to us, I think that's a great idea.
I don't at this time, I'm sorry. I'd kind of like to see, I'd like to see how many people are interested before we start engaging somebody.
It's only a conversation.
I don't want to feel like we're committed to them until we've seen who else is qualified to do this.
I mean, you can make some phone calls. I mean, I have a feeling most electricians are gonna say, no, thank you. But, but I do think that we should invite them, I think, yeah. And it's a conversation, we're not committed to them, we're not committed to anybody. Invite them all if you want.
And then you get into the weird, if you want to do a formal request for qualifications, then we should do a formal one. I don't think we should have a quasi,
Yeah.
Either do it or don't do it, but not something in the middle.
Mhm.
I just don't wanna feel like if we don't decide to go with them, we're wasting their time too, is another thing. I just think that there might be some other companies out there that do it.
But that's what companies do. I mean, you
They've
bid on a
offered to do it.
project or you show up at a meeting and it's not a gimme that you're
But the-
hired.
But they didn't bid on the project, that's the thing.
Right, but
They were, I mean, if they come here and we decide we like what they have to say, we're giving it to them, and that doesn't, to me, that's not, it's not necessarily smart spending. Do I think is there a chance we might go with them? Absolutely, but I'd like to see, if there's some other companies that may have a better rate or a better idea on it, and if there's some interest from other companies.
Why don't we ask them to come in a month and a half or so, 2 months? That gives us time to research.
I
some
think
of it.
that's a
It's
great
gonna take,
idea.
it's gonna take some time to schedule it, I'm sure, anyway.
That makes sense to me.
That way you've got 4 to 6 weeks or whatever to see if there's any other local interest.
I would certainly be happy to call, Steve Stanley, other electricians.
Mike, MCM,
Mike
G&G.
usually does a lot of pole line stuff, and they might be, actually, one of their workers we were talking about streetlights the other day. They were doing some somewhere, so that's why I kind of thought of them.
Who was that again, Mike?
Mike Nuzzetti, MCM Electric.
Oh, okay.
And there's G&G in Bar Harbor.
G&G.
Yeah.
Any others?
40 and
you
40
could
are
go-
electric.
you can
Yeah.
have electricians
Well,
for the
there's-
next
I hear
6
there's one in
years.
town.
Okay.
I hear there's
No
one in town that
thanks.
knows the selectmen.
No thanks.
Chris, I'd also like to see, and I don't know if it makes any sense to check with some of the other towns on the island that have upgraded, because I know some have,
Mhm.
and just see who they've used.
They all use real-term energy.
Did they?
Port Harbor and Rochester both use real-term, Southwest Harbor and Pennsylvania.
And I actually know some of the people that are pretty involved in the Mount Desert one. I can ask them for some feedback too.
Thank you.
Real-term is done around 30 towns in Maine.
Yeah. Well, like I said, why don't we ask them a month and a half out or some, try to set a day, something like that, and see if they'd come speak to us.
Sounds good to me.
I'd be good with that.
Do you want me to draft a formal request for qualifications?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess. I'd like to see the presentation, sure. I think there's no harm in doing that.
It's a draft motion to that effect.
Okay.
Is everything in here pretty much LED now in the town office? Have we converted everything?
Half and half. Steve did the,
Downstairs.
what's that?
These lights
These-
up there.
Yeah.
He can just change the ballast though for that.
Yeah, we're,
Upstairs has been done, those.
Yeah.
upstairs balusters have been changed.
I think it's just, we're sort of waiting, once these start burning out, then we'll make the conversion.
Something to think about.
These actually are really easy to change on. Now they've got strip lights based on a magnet. You just pop them out and like next to take the ballast out and connect them.
I think it's something we should look into. I mean, right away or over the next year,
Someone want to make a motion?
Make a motion to request the town manager to draft a request for qualifications for converting streetlights to LED and to present them to the select board at a future meeting.
Second,
Okay, it's moved and seconded to, yes, I don't see, you lost me on where it was. Ask the town manager to draft an RFP for streetlight converter. Is that close enough?
Sure.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
And then also, did you want me to invite Real-Term Energy at the same time, or do you want to wait until I bring you the RFQ?
You'll have that done within the next meeting or two.
I think so.
And why don't you, I'm fine, why don't you invite them for like 6 weeks out or something like that, or later? And that way we have a little chance to do some research before they show up. I mean, that's my feeling, if everyone's okay with that.
There's a draft motion to that effect on the bottom of page 7.
I'll make a motion.
That's the one
to
I kept
request
looking
the
at, I know it wasn't right.
Make make a motion to request the town manager to invite a representative from Real Term Energy to a future select board meeting to present the proposal for converting Tremont streetlights to LED.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to request the town manager to invite a representative from Real Term Energy to a future select board meeting to present their proposal for converting Tremont streetlights to LED. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Item D, budget preparation, finalizing the fiscal year 20 budget. Anyone got any further changes or concerns on the budget? Looks good to me.
Yeah.
I think we covered most of it.
We're good.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
Someone want to make a motion for that one?
I'll make a motion to finalize the select board's fiscal year 2020 proposed budget for town meeting and to authorize the town manager to place these articles on the draft warrant for annual town meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to finalize the select board's fiscal year 2020 proposed budget for the town meeting and to authorize the town manager to place these articles on the draft warrant for annual town meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Good job, Chris.
Really? Okay, your turn. Town manager's report.
All right, so major projects over the last week. I put out the bid for portable toilets, and I contacted the same 4 bidders as last time. If you do know of another potential bidder, please let me know, and I'll add them to the list. And I wrote the financial reports and prepared the budget or the agenda. Minor projects going on. I've been following up with the delinquent tax payer that has been discussed in a recent meeting. We have received a partial payment, and they said they hope to get us the full payment soon, so I'm optimistic that that will happen. We have set up a new phone number for the animal control officer, so his personal cell phone number is no longer listed on the website. Instead, you dial a number that comes to our office, but no phone rings in the office, it just gets automatically forwarded to a cell phone. So we have a new animal control officer a few years from now. The number will never change, we'll just forward to a different number. Working on a Trio upgrade, and that'll be happening over the next weeks and months, so fingers crossed that that continues to go smoothly. I spoke with Mike Carroll, expressing the town's possible interest in acquiring the 2 parcels next to the town office, as discussed at a previous meeting. He says that the estate isn't ready to get to this yet, but he expects to be able to have this conversation maybe sometime in the summer. You know, because it's such a sensitive matter, I don't want to push it too hard, but I put that iron in the fire. I spoke with Danny over at Sundog regarding billing. I shared with you those savings that we got from Amera on the last town office electric bill. Danny did confirm what Kevin had suspected, that we will be getting a bill from Sundog. It'll be for less than what the savings were, so there are still savings, but it's not as big as what we saw in there. So those bills, I believe, will be quarterly, not monthly. I'm working on having a surveyor from Greg Johnston's place stakes at Rich Cemetery. Currently, there are no stakes marking out where the lots are, the new ones that we've sold, so I want to make sure that folks know what they purchased. So that should be happening in the near future. Met with Sarah Hinckley to go over the budget. I submitted the monthly general assistance report, attended the planning board meeting to hear the public hearing for all of the ordinances related to the planning board, and there were no public showed up to comment, so it was very quiet. I attended the bridge progress meeting, sent letters to select board candidates inviting them to meet, and I CC'd each of you, so you should have those. Researched tree wardens from nearby towns, and I put an update on that on the agenda for next week. And then I received a request from a Southwest Harbor select board member to share it with you that there is a housing workshop related to regulating vacation rentals on April 24th in Belfast, 1 to 4:30. So if any of you are interested in attending that, let me know and I will connect you with the select board member of Southwest Harbor. Office staff drafting the town report, verifying signatures on the nominee papers, renewing our property and casualty insurance policy, drafting the warrant for annual town meeting, mailing the mooring notices and bills preparing the ad for the April 16th public hearing on the secret ballot questions that you have already discussed. And then we had a new server installed for the Trio upgrade. Public Works has been plowing and truck maintenance, removing a lot of ice from the roads. They had to take down a tree on Friday afternoon here at the town office. We're starting to see as the ground thaws, trees are coming down. They removed an ice dam from, removing ice from the culvert inflow at the south end of the Cape Road. So you might have seen some ice coming over the road there. It's because the culvert's frozen up, so they unfroze it. Scraping Hodgdon Road, they're doing their best to clear that area up. Filling potholes, especially at Herbert Drive. There's a lot there. And then purchased 20 bags of calcium chloride. Our harbor master was working on sending out the mooring fees, and he's now already starting to receive those payments. He sanded and painted the boat, and he is also out there sanding and scraping the roads. Some priorities over the next week. I will be attending a local housing needs forum tomorrow in Augusta, so I will not be in the office. That'll be discussing how local governments can address housing needs in their communities. And then I'll be completing our insurance renewal. I'll be finishing the draft warrant for town meeting. And then on Friday, I'll be attending the manager interchange in Bangor. That's why I will not be in the office. So, lots of training this week.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Okay, suggestions for the next meeting? Okay, next meeting date.
We do that before or after the?
Before.
Before,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I got one suggestion. Have you had a chance to talk to the state about improving some of the troubled areas we had this winter,
Yep.
this spring?
Yep, so I've heard that they are working on a maintenance agreement for Tremont Road. And so that if we see an issue on Tremont Road that we can address, we get their approval and they'll reimburse us for doing that. So their lawyers are drafting that agreement.
What about like construction related stuff, like the section over here by the store that needs to be built up? Is that something that we could try to push forward to them? I've had some people from the local construction company even say, we should probably build that up a foot or so. Is that something we could get pushed along and give a recommendation?
Yeah.
Also the area, by Goodwin's Hill there, that is just a disaster. And I'm sure there's no base underneath that road. There can't be. I mean, are those some areas that we can take pictures of and just document it and get together, discuss it at one of the meetings, and then make a recommendation to forward something from all of us that says, these are the areas around town that need help, and requesting that you fix them. So that we don't have flooding, we don't have water running in the road, freezing. I had a car in my lane the other day going through town. It's not good. We've got some areas that really need some help, and it's like we're put on the back burner. Nothing we can do about it, but they can.
The roads are terrible this year for sure. I drove the Pretty Marsh Road between Pretty Marsh and Sonesville today. It's like being on a fair ride. I couldn't believe the condition of that one. I mean, they're all terrible. Yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah.
I just think the squeaky wheel will get the grease. Or could, on something like that, and I guess I'd like to see that, some ideas on what the troubled areas are sent to them and see if they'll come up with something.
Be kind of interesting to see if they're willing to reimburse us for it, if that would include improving some of these areas so we could do and get reimbursed, which would be excellent.
I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great way.
We bid it out, we hire somebody and they give us the money.
You want to put it on next week's?
I think that would be great.
Okay, I don't,
Just to talk about it?
yeah. I lost track. Did you set the date or not? Didn't think so.
25th, right. All right, next meeting date.
Yep.
I make a motion to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, March 25th at 6 PM at the town office.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to confirm the date of the next meeting for Monday, March 25th at 6 o'clock, right here. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, executive session.
I will make a motion to go into executive session as permitted by 1 MRSA 405.6.c for consideration of the acquisition or disposal of real property or rights therein, since premature disclosure of this information would prejudice the competition or bargaining position of the town.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session as permitted by 1 MRSA 405.6.c for consideration of the acquisition or disposal of real property or rights therein, since premature disclosure of this information would prejudice the competitive or bargaining position of the town. Any discussion? All those in favor? We are now in executive session at 7:05.
Save that stuff, I'll lose it.